What is going on, and welcome back to another episode of Power of Progression. Got a question for you. So I need you to listen up. I need you to pay attention. I want you to answer this. What does legacy mean to you? What does legacy mean to you? Now, that was a question I was asked at a speaking engagement I did a few months back in Delaware, myself and Trent Shelton, and we did a Q&A. And during that Q&A, I was asked that question. What does legacy mean to you? And that question was asked by none other than my mother, who actually came to Delaware to see me speak for the first time ever. So she never saw me speak before on stage. And so she came along with a few other people that I know from Jersey, made the trip up. And when she asked that question, I thought I knew the answer. And the greatest part about that question, and as I'm answering, is that I had such an aha, an insight that such a small question opened up so many different doors for me. And I didn't think it was going to. And that's why I was talking about asking questions to get better results. And maybe I've answered that question before. You know what? I know I have. But I don't know if I answered it the way that really struck a chord with me on a daily basis. Overall, my legacy is this: to provide a generational legacy, right? To provide enough value for the generations to come of Marrones to be positively and powerfully connected to our last name and given opportunities and experiences that we've never had before. And to show others that there is hope in whatever obstacle that they're facing, adversity they're facing, there is hope of them overcoming it and persevering and creating the life that they want. My legacy is to change the Marrone last name and give it a new meaning, but also give it more opportunity for the ones that come after me, as well as give other people the opportunity to create the life that they've always wanted in the ultimate version themselves, and that massive fulfillment that we all search for. Sounds great, right? That's what I believe. But something more powerfully happened that day when she asked me that question. So, Mom, first off, shout out to you. So when she asked that question, I'm answering it, and I realized I'm a big believer in this. Listen up, because this is how I think about things. And I talked about this on the last podcast, but about my grave. Right? The most important part of our grave is not when we're born. It's not when we die. It's not the cool phrase or quote that we have on there. It's the dash. That's the most memorable thing. At least it should be. That dash resembles so much of your life, all of it, right? Your experiences, the value you added, the type of person you were, your commitments, your relationships, your money you made, the impact. It resembles you. That small little dash resembles your life, and it's so weird to think about. But that little teeny dash resembles the 50, 60, 70, 80 years, however it is, how long it is that you're on this earth. So what are you going to do to put meaning behind that dash? What are you going to do when people come up to that dash? You make them feel a certain way when they think about you and the experience that you had on this earth. When your kids come up to that dash, what emotion is going to overcome them? Is it going to be joy or unfortunate disappointment? Right? Are you just going to be another tombstone in the graveyard, or are you going to be a tombstone that people go to feel a certain way, a great way, a powerful way, to feel better, knowing that you lived your life to the fullest? When you're sitting there right now thinking about that dash, I need you to think about how you want people to feel when they go up to it. So legacy to me is that dash. But it goes, once again, a little bit deeper when she asked me that question, because I think this is our problem. We think we still have this 50, 60, 70, 20, whatever years left of our life, 10 years, 5 years left of our life. And we know what we want to leave on this earth. But because we don't know when it's going to happen, and we think we got more time than we always do, we take our time in taking action and putting action behind the intent to create a legacy, right? Like we come up with all these excuses not to act in a way that we want to act and create the character that we want to be and live the life that we want to live. All these excuses that hold us back from that, but yet we still have this legacy that we're trying to leave. Think back. You know what your legacy is. How many times have you made an excuse not to fulfill that legacy, not to commit to that legacy? Because there's always tomorrow. There's always another chance. So you say, okay, well, I acted out of character. I've been not doing what I said I wanted to do, and it's been a few months. All right, I'll start doing well. Then life happens, and you fall back into this vicious cycle. And then the end of the day comes, and you didn't leave a legacy that you wanted, all because you thought you had more time. See, Gary Vee talks about being patient, and I believe be patient, but also work your ass off while being patient. And the microwave mindset, which I'll be talking about with my clients here this week in our coaching call. But like I want you to fall in love with the process and don't rush things, but also don't be patient and wait. Like if you're listening to this right now, and you're 20, 25, like put the work in. If you're listening to this right now and you're 50, 55, put the work in every area. And so when she asked me that question, I realized I was coming up with excuses in many areas of my life on not to live my legacy that day, because my legacy is when I passed, right? When I die, that's a legacy. It's what they feel when I die. It's how they think about me when I die. It's what I leave after I leave this earth. It's what I leave here for people to remember. And I realized in that moment, it was bullshit. It was bullshit. And it was a huge turning point for me, because this is how I feel. And I want you to go ahead and feel the same exact way, because I think it's going to help you. My legacy is, yes, what I said earlier, but my legacy is every time I leave a room, knowing that I was present and I gave the hope and I gave the tools and I just gave an ear for that person to talk to. And so when I leave that room, I left them feeling a certain way that's going to empower them to be better. So I have a conversation with one of my clients. I want to leave a legacy in that conversation, to give them the opportunity to grab a tool or strategy to overcome that obstacle, that adversity they're facing that day. When I leave a conference and I step off stage, I need to leave a legacy on that stage, because that may be the only time they reach out or hear me or whatever it might be. And so when I hear legacy, I think about not when I leave this earth anymore, but I think about when I leave the room, when I leave the stage, when I leave the conversation. What legacy am I leaving in that moment? When I leave the day, put my head down. What legacy did I leave today? Did I leave the one that I said I wanted? Or did I create excuses not to fulfill those commitments? You do that enough times, you're not going to reach that end result. I changed my mind about legacy. It's not the shit that you leave here for others to remember and feel, and opportunities, and that's a piece of it. But that does not happen without leaving a legacy on a daily basis, on a conversational basis, on an event basis. When people come to my retreat, I want to leave my legacy on May 2nd. I want everybody, 40 people that will be coming to that retreat, which, by the way, I have 3 tickets left. When people come to that retreat, I want them to feel a certain way. I want them to leave with the tools and strategies to overcome anything that comes their way. And always remember, man, John gave me this little nugget. Man, John gave me this inspiration. Man, John gave me this strategy or this tool. And I'm using it daily to be better. I'm using it daily to create more income, to create more experiences for my family, to have the life that I never thought I could have. So think about your legacy. Don't think about the dash all the time. Because, yes, that's important. But that end result legacy will not happen unless you're truly putting in the work and the understanding and the emotion behind everything you do, knowing that each thing you do leaves a legacy. It's a breadcrumb. Everything you do. I mean, when somebody really screws up, right? Oh man, he's this, he's that, she's this, she's that. That's their legacy. So you think, right? When somebody leaves the room and they didn't impress you, right? They leave you with a legacy that's not a legacy to be happy of, because they were rude, or they were assuming too much, and they pointed fingers, and whatever the case was, they leave a legacy that is something that they probably don't want to leave when they die, but they're being reactive in that moment versus proactively thinking, hey, I'm leaving a legacy in this conversation. When I leave this room, how do I want them to feel when I leave this room? Right? How do I want to leave this room and be known as? If I would never come back to this conversation, never come back to this person, what am I leaving with them? Value or hate? What am I leaving with them? Me talking over them, or me just listening so they could vent? What am I leaving with them? A tool and a strategy to be better? Or yelling at them because they didn't do what they said they were going to do, and not giving them the opportunity, a tool, or a strategy to actually get better from the mistake? So when I was asked that question in October, it took me this long to speak about it. I dropped a little nugget here and there in different episodes, but because I wanted to make sure that it was really something I've been taking into my daily life. Now, look, I'm not 100% on it. Like, I'm not leaving every room, leaving every little thing I have out there with the way I want people to feel and the emotion I want them to have and the tools and the strategy. No, that's not happening every day, but it's happening way more. It's happening way more because I'm super intentional behind it. Because now I understand the legacy is not just the dash. The legacy is not when you leave this earth. The legacy is when you leave that conversation, when you leave that room. How'd you make them feel? What value did you add? And somebody said it great. Like, your bank account, right, is reflective of how many lives that you impact. And I'm a huge believer in that. But if we continue to wait and create these excuses on not to live in the way that we want to live, and in the action that we want to live in, it's sad, but I don't think you're going to be able to leave the legacy that you want, because you created this excuse habit because you think you have more time than you do. And look back at some friends and family members. Did they pass away too early? Never having the opportunity to leave the legacy that they probably wanted to leave. Think about that right now. Is there somebody that you know that is no longer with us, and you loved them? They were great, but you know that there was more for them to leave a legacy. You know that they wanted to do more. They wanted to change the world. They wanted to experience more. They wanted to do all these different things, but because they're waiting and they're putting excuses in their way, they never got to. And unfortunately, they're no longer with us, and they'll never have that chance. It's scary, and it should scare you. It should scare you into action. It should scare you into leaving a legacy daily. So what are you going to do to change how you act daily? When you make decisions, when you walk into a room, just ask yourself the simple question: what legacy do I want to leave after this conversation? Right? Well, before I get on coaching calls, I'm not necessarily tied to the outcome, but I'm like, what legacy do I want to leave? Okay, I want to leave adding value. I don't know what that looks like. Or when I walk into a conversation in a meeting, I don't walk in necessarily with being tied to the outcome of I want this, 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 and this, but I want to be able to add value and be respected. I want to be able to provide a tool or a strategy to take the business to the next level. I don't know what the tool is yet. I don't know what the strategy is yet, but I know that's what I want to leave. And if I could leave that room by giving that enough times, the compound effect of my legacy will be taken care of. I will no longer wait to feel that either. And that's the coolest part, right? Like, that's the coolest part. When you pass away and you leave a legacy, you see some strides, right? Like towards the end of your life. And I'm sure like people, I've obviously never had that experience, but like they see some amazing things happening because of the legacy they left. So it's awesome. But they don't feel it long enough. And so that feeling, I know, is a very good feeling because I've done it. What are you going to do to leave a legacy to create that fulfillment. Because here's the kicker. Once you feel that emotion, right, once you feel that like over feeling of like joy and bliss and like, oh man, that felt good to give them that little tool, or man, that felt good to make them feel good. Man, that felt good just to listen and hear them out. That feeling right there, it's almost irreplaceable. It's a new high. And once you feel it enough, you're like, I want more of that. I want more of that. It's like a drug. I want more of that. I want more of that. Well, the way to get more of that is to be intentional by going into every conversation thinking that. Yeah, there's a little selfishness in there because you want to feel good, but in the end, that's not selfishness. That's a human need to feel good, to feel like you matter, to feel like you added value. And so, Mom, thank you so much for asking me about what does legacy mean? Because I still believe in the dash is super important, and I want people to feel a certain way and emotion to overcome them, to know that, that whatever it is they're going through, they could push through. But I want to feel that for the rest of my life. I want to feel that daily. I want to feel it in every conversation. And if you want to feel the same exact way, if you want to leave a legacy daily and create a legacy lifestyle, walk in every conversation asking yourself, how do I want to make them feel? Right? What's the goal of this? When I leave that room, if I never talk to them again, if I never see that person again, if I just fall off the face of the earth, what did I leave them with? What's the emotion that I want to leave them with? My family, my kids, what kind of emotion do I want to leave that room with? Like, I'll be honest. My daughter, was just like, hey, Daddy, can you come play? And I'm doing this podcast. I'm jumping on a webinar because we're about to go to Cabo. We're going to Shreveport, then we're going to Cabo for a mastermind I'm running with Commissions Inc., with some of the best real estate agents and brokers in the country. And I'm going to be working until probably 9:30 tonight and jump on a plane at 5 a.m. tomorrow. And so I'm working up until like 9. And when she said, Daddy, can you come play? I had to say no, and that hurts, right? That hurts. But also I know I need to shift and do this to create a longer legacy. So yeah, I understand that sometimes you have to sacrifice certain situations where I can't leave the best legacy of my daughter today. I can't do that right there in that moment. But what I'm doing right now on this podcast, what I'm doing right now, or in a few minutes, and jumping on this webinar that I'm doing, like by cultivating that legacy, it's also going to feed the legacy I'm going to leave her at the end of the day. So yeah, we do have to have this integration, understand that balance isn't real. But what I want you to take from this is, like, as much as possible, create this legacy lifestyle and ask yourself after each situation, like, how does it feel? And if man, I felt great. How can I duplicate that? How can I replicate that? But before you do that, be intentional with leaving a legacy after every conversation, after every engagement, after everything you do, right? Whether you go on a trip with your family, what kind of legacy are you leaving for those experiences? Create a legacy daily. Create a legacy that's turned into something that you could feel on a daily basis. Still remember, the dash is so important, but it's time for you to start creating a legacy lifestyle. Do me a favor, guys. If you've gotten value out of today, I want you to share this out. I think that a lot of people need to hear this message. I think that you can agree that people are waiting too long and creating way too many excuses to live the life that they want, to take the action that they want, to get rid of the old beliefs that they want, because they think they have more time. And if we shut all that out and say, if today was the last day you could live, what would you do? You'd probably say, enjoy the hell out of it and leave something for my family. Let's live that way, right? Like, why not live that way? So share this out so others can get the value. Tag me at Real John Marrone. I would love to see people sharing it out to their network, getting more eyes on this podcast, right? Like, I want other people to see it. I also want people to hear this and all the other podcasts that we're doing, and all the other things we have coming up, because we have to add value to other people in the end too, and share this thing out. And so the more eyes I can get on this podcast, the more people I could help. Like, there's no shame in saying that. There's a lot of people out there that'll ask you to do certain things because of their own reason, but they won't come out and be like, yeah, look, dude, I want more listeners. Share this out so people could see it more, so people could hear it more. I'm telling you, I want more people to hear it. at Real John Marrone. Take a little clip of something that you like during this podcast. Share it out. Send it to your friends. Throw it on Facebook. Tag me in it. It's going to be on YouTube. Go ahead and share this YouTube link out. If you haven't yet subscribed and you're in my YouTube, click the little bell. If you're watching this or listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, make sure you follow or subscribe. And make sure you please write a review. Let me know you're watching. Let me know what you like, what you love, so I can do more of it. And last thing I want to leave you with is when you hear this, I'll be in Cabo running the mastermind. So I don't know how many tickets going to be left. Right now we have about 3 or 4. And on March 10th, it goes from $250 a ticket to $500. I don't think it's going to even last until then because that's going to be when you guys listen to this about 8 days out or something like that. So by March 10th, it's going to go to $500. It's going to double the investment. Next year, by the way, it's going to be $1,000 to come to the retreat. Some little things, some tweaks are going to happen to it for sure. But this is going to be the lowest you could ever come to our retreat, mine and Julian Rosen's, here in Destin, Florida, May 2nd. The lowest investment you're ever going to pay. So please do yourself a favor, do your family, do your future a favor. Come hang out at the retreat. I'm not going to jump into exactly everything that it is. Just go to www.johnmarrone.com/retreat. Also, there's a link in whatever podcast platform you're listening to us in, except Spotify. I don't think they have that. But go listen to it, go read all about it. Go listen to the video. I have a 2-minute video on there. But I would love to see you there. And then message me if you have any questions on it, right? I want to make sure that you feel confident it's a good fit for you. So reach out to me, john@johnmarrone.com, and let's chat. Let's build a conversation around it. If not, maybe there's a coaching program I have that's better fitted for you. Right? Maybe there's a better suited route for you to take to get you to where you want to go. Maybe the retreat's not for you. I do know that it's for anybody that's willing to go ahead and get vulnerable and dive deep into our bullshit and truly get the real tools and strategies to be connected with who you are and who you want to be, and what you need to do to get there, because you get the tools and you get the strategies. It's one of the most remarkable events I've ever been a part of, not just because it's my event, not being biased. You can ask my wife. I cried for 3 days afterwards because it was so impactful. And then to hear the results 6 months later is incredible. So go to johnmarrone.com/retreat, sign your ass up, or message me if you have any questions. Get one of those last tickets though. Once again, $249. That's it. It's going to be the best $249 that you're going to spend. You got to obviously fly down here or drive wherever you're at and get a room. But let's just say $1,000. I'll show you how to make way more than $1,000. But most importantly, create massive fulfillment and clarity in your life, which is in the end priceless. So please go ahead, go to that website, check it out, message me or email me if you have any questions. Share this out. As I said before, like and review this podcast. Today, my challenge is this. What are you doing when you walk into a conversation, when you walk into a situation? Are you creating this legacy lifestyle, or are you creating excuses because you think you have time? It's up to you. Have an amazing rest of your day. Go crush it. And if I don't see you, if I don't hear from you, then I'll see you next week. But make sure you guys keep creating the ultimate version of you.